Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I am your host, as always, Chad Porto. Joining me, as always, is Marcus Green. Marcus, how the hell are you?
Good man. Another Tuesday, another wrestling conversation.
Oh, and we got a show for you this week. We're going to hop right on in to what I believe to be the biggest story of the week that no one's talking about, and that's the cracks in the perfect Paul Levesque booking. Started actually late last week, right before the 4th of July, when that documentary came out about the main event of WrestleMania 40, where Triple H confirms that Cody was told before the Royal Rumble that he'll not be facing Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, but then Cody still goes and points at Roman Reigns. I have not seen the documentary about night 40 or part 1, part 2, whatever it's called of WrestleMania. I'm only seeing what people are posting online, so I don't know if there was more to that conversation or if there was more to the conversation that did not get aired. But the General Guard, and this is by one of those WWE bootlegger accounts, which is fucking hate. It's one of those tribal wrestling accounts. It has like 11,000 followers because they just bootlit Roman Reigns because they're fucking gross. And it could have been alleged that Cody was told to test the waters and see what happens, and so he did that. But basically, there was a lot of uncertainty over what they were going to go and do at WrestleMania 40, be it Rock, be it Cody, whoever against Roman. And this documentary kind of revealed that there were some conversations that were being had in place, and the idea was that The Rock would go and face Roman. Everyone knew that was stupid. Everyone knew that was stupid. Considering we were told at the end of WrestleMania 39 that Cody would finish the journey. Like we were told that. And I think one of the worst things that has come in the last 25 years is the need to subvert expectations. No. I didn't want the fans to get what they wanted. I wanted the fans to get what they didn't want. Because I'm an auteur. And I make things that you'll enjoy, even if you don't like them. You'll be told that they're fine works of art, even though you don't get the ending you want. And because you don't get the ending you want, it's not cinema, it's auteur. You are experiencing a revolution, not watching a popcorn movie. And listen, if that's your hoity-toity brand of fuckery, God bless you. I, for one, watch Lord of the Rings because the ring will be destroyed. I may never have seen Lord of the Rings the first time. Never read it the first time. But I knew they were going to destroy that ring because that was the point of the fucking book, was to destroy the goddamn ring. I knew Luke would defeat Darth Vader after the first Star Wars movie, even when I saw it the first time when I was like 6 or 7 years old when it aired on Marathon, the USA Network. I knew that was going to happen. I was 6. I knew Luke was going to trump Darth Vader because that's what happens. Didn't mean that the story wasn't good. Batman beats the Joker. Fantastic. Doesn't mean the story wasn't good. Back to the Future. Marty goes back to the future. It's in the title, Marcus. It's in the title of the goddamn franchise. So I hate the conversations we have about, well, sometimes you just need to, buck the trend. Give them the ending they deserve, not the one they want. No. The story was that Cody was going to beat Roman, take the belt off of him, and sail off into the sunset. I don't believe for 1 second that they were testing the goddamn waters. I believe that they were going to go full bore into The Rock beating Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40 because that's what The Rock wanted. That's what Triple H wanted. And I don't think Roman Reigns gave a shit one way or another to say no. But we already know that had that been the plan, which this documentary that came out recently, the one that everyone's memeing the high hell with The Rock, where they were like, and then I told CM Punk to cut the pipe bomb promo. Like, before we got this documentary, we had every major journalist in the wrestling sphere talking about how that The Rock was the original pitch, that they backtracked and reassessed things after the backlash was so high and they went back to Cody, and that the original plan was for The Rock to beat Roman Reigns and relinquish the belt after WrestleMania. We know 2/3 of that story to already be true because the WWE told us it was. So we know just by inference, just by the fact that we were told all three of these things at the same time before WrestleMania even happened, that if two of these three were proven true by the WWE themselves, then we know that the third plan was for The Rock to win and then vacate the championship. That would have been fucking terrible. Now, I'm not bringing this up just for no reason. Subversion of expectations or not, there is a larger point to this. We saw this play out pretty poorly over the weekend with the WWE's booking. Case in point, the Money in the Bank ladder match. Now, I want to be very clear. Multiple things can be true at the same time. I hate the Money in the Bank briefcase concept. I hate it. It's stupid. I hate that TNA has one. I hate that other companies have tried to have one. It is stupid. It is a quick reaction, a quick moment to produce a pop that does not sustainably build up a star. It's great for that moment, but just kind of look at things. Seth Rollins now, I think, is as big as a star as he could be. I don't think he's ever going to be the top guy. His promos aren't good enough. His voice is too whiny. In the ring, he's very fluid, very movement. You know, he moves very well. But I don't think, for one, he's anything special. In the era of the work rate wrestler, Seth Rollins does not stand out. That is not a knock on his talent. It is a statement of utter shock and awe that the quality of wrestling is as high as it is today. At no other point has wrestling ever been this fluid and technically sound. It is impressive. I don't think Seth Rollins is a main event player. Not at the level of Cody Rhodes, not at the level of Roman Reigns, not at the level of The Rock. If those guys are main event players, then Seth Rollins by proxy is. I say that not to knock him. I say that to point out that Seth Rollins won his first championship, first world title, 9 years ago? At WrestleMania 31? Am I right on that one?
Yeah, 2015, we said, yeah.
Yeah, 2015. He main evented, got a huge pop. And they pushed him for a year as the guy until he blew out his knee. Which is karmic justice for taking Sting out of the ring, you prick. But I digress. That did not elevate him. As much as anyone would like to say Seth Rollins' aura, his perception, his booking, his entire entity was not improved by that win. It took a few more years. And a woman in Becky Lynch who was able to actually dress in a way that would get people to look at her. And because they were doing the hibbity-dibbity at night, she apparently helped Seth with his wardrobe, and then he started to improve his aura because, as I always say, it's not about in-ring work, it's about perception. When you promote yourself, build yourself, show yourself as a star, people believe you to be a star, but you have to go through the process. You have to go through the work. You have to win. Now, you can win, and this is a problem we're seeing in New Japan. You can win all the matches you need to win and still not make the connection with the audience. And you can make the connection with the audience and still not win all the matches you need to do, and you still won't be taken seriously as a main eventer. Because there's a difference between being a draw and being a main eventer. And the Money in the Bank briefcase hinders people from going from a draw to a main event. It hinders them. If Stone Cold had won the Money in the Bank briefcase and cashed in, instead of going through the King of the Ring, the losses at Survivor Series, the loss at WrestleMania 13, winning the '97 Royal Rumble and coming up with Bupkis, winning the 1998 Royal Rumble, and then finally cashing. Like, it took him 2.5 years to really win that belt. Like, there was an entire arc of him struggling and failing and building up his brand as he went with each subsequent win. And that's not indicative or unique to him. Sting, same way. Hulk Hogan, same way. Randy Savage, same way. John Cena, same way. John Cena, I don't know if he main evented in 2003, but was getting WWE title shots against Brock Lesnar in 2003. Like 18 months before he got to the main event of WrestleMania. Or, I guess, sub-main event. So, like, Batista, yeah, he went from being a world champion in 2005 to 3 years earlier being Devon's heavy, and then being Triple H's lackey, and being Ric Flair's tag team partner, and then, challenging Edge for the... Like, there was a through line. And he won his way into acceptance. So the Money in the Bank briefcase, I don't have any love for it. It's not a good concept. It's hindered a lot of guys' growth and has allowed them to put belts on people in an inadequate and unnecessary way that did not build them up, promote them, or highlight them in any sort of positive aspect, and just kind of gave fans more of the same, but with a new sticker on their titles. On the wrestlers, I mean. So for them to, quote-unquote, waste the Money in the Bank briefcase at Money in the Bank, I don't think is the worst thing in the world. What I do think is the worst thing in the world is you could have done this so much better, given a guy a boost if you could, and still done the CM Punk of it all. Because obviously, as we know, Drew McIntyre won the Money in the Bank briefcase, and then 40 minutes later cashed in on Seth Rollins and Damian Priest only for CM Punk to get involved. I don't think that was necessary. It showed a pretty weak-ass booking strategy. One, again, I respect Marcus far more than people will ever truly comprehend. I do not like talking negatively about guys he likes. He likes Damian Priest. I don't think Damian Priest is a headliner, and I think the WWE knows he's not a headliner. That, one, it's why he went on third. Two, it's why they created a match where neither he or Seth had to lose, because neither guy would make sense to lose. Seth can eat a loss, but they don't view Damian Priest high enough to give him a win over Seth Rollins. They don't want to take the belt off of Damian Priest for whatever reason, because they need to prove that they're right with him. So they put Drew McIntyre in this match instead to eat the loss. So the whole booking dynamic right now of the WWE is in shambles, because you wasted the Money in the Bank briefcase, which I already don't like. You had Drew McIntyre wrestle twice and just to eat the loss that neither Damian Priest or Seth Rollins wants to take, apparently. And you're continuing on with this weak Damian Priest title reign that no one seems to be buying into or enjoying for obvious reasons. He's not very good. This was his third world title match on PPV, big time showing, that kind of sunk up the joint. Even when they added Drew McIntyre, it didn't get better. It got better for some people when CM Punk showed up. But this isn't the only time on this show where we saw this as an issue. We saw it again with the Sami Zayn Braun Breaker match. And everyone's like, well, it's of two minds. One, you either ruin Braun Breaker, or two, faces can't have successful title wins. Both are inaccurate statements. One, Braun Breaker's aura has not been broken, but it has been diminished, just like Gunther's has. Gunther was the talk of the WWE until he lost that belt, and now he's kind of like, all right, cool, whatever. He's not doing anything worth talking about. Braun Breaker was ripping through people, and now he just lost to Sami Zayn clean. That does hurt a little bit. It's not going to keep him from becoming a major star, but it does interrupt his push today. Today, he's not as over as he was on Friday. And for what? Sami Zayn, who's 40 years old and has lost 3 or 4 steps in his career? It makes no sense. Now, if you want Sami Zayn to have a title win, have a title run, cool. Don't give him a prospect that has big-time feels with him. You want to make Braun Breaker a star, you don't set Braun Breaker up for failure. And this is setting him up for failure. Sami Zayn does not need to have a win over Braun Breaker. You don't need to put the two together at all. They're hot-shotting Braun Breaker into a title scene for some reason. Yet they don't want to pull the trigger on the win. Well, maybe they want to do it sometime. Who gives a shit? Then don't have him face Sami Zayn at Money in the Bank. Marcus, I have watched enough wrestling that I think I can go toe-to-toe with just about anyone. I can say this with all due certainty. The Ultimate Warrior didn't lose to Honky Tonk Man, 5 weeks before SummerSlam. He rolled in there in 90 seconds, not even 90, jeez, it could have been shorter than that, and quite literally squashed Honky Tonk Man into oblivion, winning the Intercontinental title. Helped propel him to the next level. If you're trying to build Braun Breaker up as this unstoppable, fucking brick house of a man, right? You don't have him lose to a 40-year-old who's on his last legs as a performer. And I know people don't like to hear Sami Zayn's on his last like he is. And it's not some WWE dig. It's not for any other. He's 40. He's been doing this for 20 years. He's had some of the most intense matches you'll ever see throughout his career. He already started to slow down when he went from being El Generico to being Sami Zayn. This was inevitable. He's still pretty good. He's just not. He's not so good that he should be getting in the way of upstarts like Breakker. Now, again, I don't have a problem with Sami Zayn defending the belt. Just don't put him against Breakker. I don't understand why people can't put two and two together. Like, you could have him beat other guys while maintaining this Intercontinental title reign. Just don't have him beat Breakker after beating, Gunther. Like, right now, Sami Zayn's the momentum killer. That's not a great thing. But the issues with the booking go even further into NXT, where we had Ethan Page win the NXT Championship. And listen, when it comes to Ethan Page, he's not exactly someone that I think people should be rallying around. I know he's a get from AEW for like whatever that is for you. Like, that's like getting the eighth guy off the bench in an NBA team and then making him your main starter. It's like getting JJ Barea from the 2011 Dallas Mavericks and making him your primary scorer. Okay. Cool. You have fun with that. It's going to be a very short ride for you. Ethan Page burns bridges. And he did it when he left TNA, and he did it when he left AEW. And the thing, the situation is he's not talented enough as a performer, and he's not charismatic enough as a personality to truly be a headliner. Like, there's a reason why he hasn't anywhere else. And just like with Lexus King, the former Brian Pillman Jr., NXT fans are going to realize that he has a ceiling on him. And, like, this is no different than the Shawn Spears of it all. When they try to make Shawn... Did Shawn Spears win the NXT Championship? I don't think he did.
No, he pulled, basically stopped Trick from retaining and allowed Ego to win.
No, I don't mean this weekend. I mean historically, has he ever?
Oh no. He's just one of the few people that I saw and maybe ever of people that left NXT with a final match that he won.
Mm.
And that was against, I think, EY at the time when he was in NXT in a cage match.
Ironic. So, like, Bo Dallas, not a main eventer. Adrian Neville, not a main eventer. Bobby Roode, when he won, it wasn't a main eventer. Andrade's not a main eventer. Aleister Black's not a main eventer. Tommaso Ciampa's not a main eventer. Johnny Gargano's not a main eventer. Some people would argue that Adam Cole could be. I don't think he is currently. Keith Lee, Karrion Kross. Finn Balor currently. Let's see. I think Carmelo Hayes, Ilya Dragunov, and Trick Williams can be. They aren't today. But like most of the people who have won an NXT championship aren't traditional headlining main eventers. They can headline a brand that has the ability to draw on its own. But they're not going to be guys that you can put on the main event scene to star and draw audiences to you. And I believe Ethan Page is the same issue. I think what we're seeing is the beginning of the cracks of Triple H's, quote-unquote, perfect booking strategies. Too many people are giving him the benefit of the doubt, and I don't know why. Because so far, all he's done is inherit Gunther, inherit Roman Reigns, inherit Cody Rhodes, and then stall out two of the three of them. And there's a good possibility he ends up doing the same thing to Cody eventually, too. I don't think the product is better than it has been at any other point in time. I do believe there's elements that are really, really good. But, like, look at LA Knight. He's as over as Rover, and he still can't get a damn title shot. Am I to believe that Damian Priest is a better headliner? Even Drew McIntyre is a better headliner than LA Knight? I mean, granted, LA Knight hasn't proven he can headline yet, but again, he hasn't been given the opportunity, which I believe he can take and do well with if given the shot. But I don't believe that the WWE is this this impossibly perfect entity that makes no mistakes and everything's long-term booking and yada 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 yada. Because I don't buy it. We know that Triple H is pretty self-centered. It sounded like you wanted to hop in with something, Marcus.
Yeah, it's just one of them things, man. It's and to your point, people listening, I feel the exact same amount of respect for Chad in general. But I mean, the kind of the writing's kind of on the wall with Priest, and I am a fan of his. But ultimately, it's to your point. It's kind of what you said. If they never had any intention on booking him in a way, and obviously, I think we always talk about those levels with these guys and tiers. I don't think Priest is on the level of a guy like Gunther. But like you said, when you're talking about your points about you can win all the matches and not have the crowd, or have the crowd not have all the matches. I think two good examples of that would be, um, in terms of winning the match and not have the crowd, would be Priest, and then a historical example of having the crowd but not winning all the matches would be Ziggler.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's just a thing. If they wasn't planning on trying to at least attempt to book him like Gunther, while having straight up and down matches where he looked very good, convincingly without any effort or interference in the match, then if that was never the intention, then they clipped him out the gate. Because again, to me, with where he's positioned, he's playing like sixth fiddle in far larger narratives. Like he's behind. Ultimately, it's Punk, and then it's under him. It's Gunther who's waiting in the wings for however that falls out. Then it's McIntyre who has beef with Punk and all that. Then it's Seth who they brought back, who immediately got put into it with Drew and Punk, who we got history with. And then even before that, it's the fallout of the Judgment Day, which Priest ain't even in the center of that because he's not even deemed the leader, even though he's the champion, because Rhea's missing. So he's like fifth or sixth rung on the ladder, and he's supposed to be the guy. And then you're not letting him have these great performances. He's not exactly a Ilya Dragunov or a Gunther or somebody in that ilk, and I think it's all collapsing around him. And every time he has these matches where again the narrative takes precedent of the CM Punk or the Drew of it all, and he just kind of gets the win after a bunch of effort. It hurts him. So him going against Gunther is like, I mean, by the time Gunther the ultimate boss, if he's the final boss, and you kind of see it like he's not on that same level. It's like you basically just feeding this man to the shark, not too differently from what you did with the Fiend and Goldberg. So that time ago, which really should have been the inverse, but what are you gonna do? So I want to root for Priest, but again, it's just writing on the wall. At this point, he's a placeholder for wherever they want to go with the narrative. Either it's gonna be, uh, I guess, Gunther or Punk. But I think ultimately all this stuff goes back to Punk because he has the crowd and he has the narrative. So it sucks, but that's just the position he's in. I just think, to your point, they don't want to look like they were wrong with him, so they're trudging through it. Whereas what they did with the Cody situation, clearly they had to pivot. And the crazy part is, instead of it being their own intelligence, it came down again. We talked about this before the show. It came down to The Rock's ego. He don't like not being liked. He has to be the guy. Now it ended up working out better for him because he ended up getting liked more as an a-hole as the final boss than he would have just trying to continue to do the classic Rock shtick of coming out there and pandering to the people. He ended up getting liked more. But what would have happened if he hadn't got in his feelings and his ego and being like, yeah, we need to pivot because I can't come out this looking like the bad guy again. Like I'm not finna get Black Adam again. So, it sucks that, and maybe this is on the company, like, because I think him and Triple H were supposed to have a match at Mania all them years back and it fell through. So they feel like they need to pay themselves back for something they didn't get a chance to do. And maybe another thought is they wanted to trust through it between him and Rock and Roman because they know they have a finite amount of time to get Rock for a consistently significant amount of time and make it work within a certain schedule. So yeah, it's just crazy that again they cut off their own nose to spot their face, and then because, and to another one of your points, I think Triple H gets all this really undue praise because they're constantly comparing it to what was going on with Vince, and it's like, okay, there the car wasn't moving. It felt like it was all the tires was off with on rims, and it was on blocks. And then Triple H get the car, and it got wheels on it, and it's moving with the alternator transmission all janky. But it's like you can't see that because it's on the inside, you know. But the car's moving though, so it's just one of the things.
I agree with you. I agree with you completely, especially with the fact that comparatively, this is the best WWE has been in years. I won't deny that.
Yeah.
But saying that it's the best it's been in years is like saying East Germany and West Germany is a better idea than Nazi Germany. You're not wrong. But East and West Germany are still losing money and cannot sustain a viable country without being reunified. Hence the reason why they had the whole Mr. Gorbachev tear down the wall. Still not great. Still not good. You know, getting shot in the leg is still better than getting shot in the face. Even better is not getting shot at all, right? And I feel like WWE fans don't realize that, yeah, they're not getting shot in the face anymore. They're still getting shot in the leg. It still hurts. To be fair, there is no wrestling company that I can say has great booking, but what I am saying is that WWE isn't great booking. There's a lot of flaws in this game, especially with the fact that heading into SummerSlam, we're looking at Cody versus Solo Sikoa in the main event. Fucking kill me now. And someone on Twitter, and it's one of those bootlicker accounts, I'm going to start calling them gout accounts because they lick so much leather, they have to be dealing with some type of serious gout issue from how much they're just sucking on. So these gout accounts are like, you're not supposed to think Solo Sikoa is a main eventer. You're supposed to see him as someone who isn't on Roman Reigns' level because he's a fake head of the table, and that's the point. No, it's not. He's supposed to be seen as the big boss of this new bloodline. He's not. He sucks. But he's supposed to be seen as that. Yes, he is the fake heir to the throne, right? He's the pretender to the throne. No one's denying that's not the storyline. But the perception is Roman's going to come in and squash Solo right now. That's not supposed to be the perception. The perception is that Solo Sikoa is a gangster mob, hitman, big boss type guy who's able to make a chattering teeth storm in Tama Tonga and a violent were-poodle in Jacob Fatu. He's no longer as big as a wolf. You're supposed to think that Solo Sikoa can manage these monsters. If you can manage these monsters with brute force, which is what we're implied that Solo can do, the implication is that he can handle Roman Reigns. Whether he's the real boss or not, that's a storyline question. So when I see people saying stuff like that, saying that, well, he's the pretender to the throne, you're not supposed to perceive him as a top guy, that's wrong, that's a lie, you're making that up. You're making that up to try to justify the fact that Solo Sikoa has the talent of William Hung in an American Idol audition. That may be a 20-year-old reference, but I still did it. She banged. I think the problem is the WWE still is going to follow the WWE's patterns. Guys like Priest, Sikoa, and others, like, I know some people like him. He's not good. Jey Uso. These guys are getting pushed not because they're good, but because the WWE wants them to be stars. They have merchandise marked out for them already. They have goals and ideas and potential marketing partnerships in place for them, so they can't afford to pull back on their promotion. And that in turn puts us in a position where Solo Sikoa, who is not over by any stretch of the imagination, is now leading the SmackDown show, and we're only kind of somewhat invested because Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga are psychopaths that we adore. And because Roman Reigns will eventually return, and we're curious to see what that fold will look like when he does. But it might suck.
Yeah, it might, because to your point, it's so lopsided. Like, people don't really realize. Think about it. He was more over when he was just a guy in the bloodline that was giving looks to Roman. Like, I probably shouldn't cross this line because he might spike me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was over more when it was alluded to him being a badass and him actually acting like a badass.
Yeah,
But again,
this is like your drunk friend telling everyone that they can sing, and then they try to sing, and then you realize, oh no. Mm.
it's that thing. The classic is making me think back to Sons of Anarchy. Like Roman's the Pope, and like Solo is being sold as the Pope, but he's really the guy that was hiding in the convenience store from the Sons or wherever that was, and then they had to leave because the Irishman stole Jack's son.
Oh yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah, like it's like you're not an actual problem. You're being sold as a problem, and you're putting other little problems around you. Two specific problems that's being sold as little, but actually are problems. But because you have the leadership narrative, huge quotation marks, you're supposed to be the guy. So, and again, it's a compound effect, much like Priest. Like he took all the L's in the storyline of the final boss of it all, leading up to WrestleMania. Rock and Roman wasn't having no matches, and if they were, they damn sure wasn't losing. So Solo had to take all those spots, and he took all the L's. And then you immediately follow that up with, "Oh, I'm the boss now." What? No, no, that's not how this works. Not how this works. You couldn't beat Cody when he wasn't even looking at you as a main thing on Raw. You finna beat him now because you wearing gloves?
And tacky gloves at that, Marcus. Let's talk about the shows themselves, though. You're being warned about the potential downfall of the booking, but we still have other things to talk about. First and foremost, Money in the Bank happened. We'll talk about the match lengths here in a separate aspect. Drew defeated Andrade, Carmelo, Chad Gables, Jey Uso, and LA Knight to win the briefcase. Zayn defeated Braun Baker. Damian Priest defeated Seth and Drew. Tiffany Stratton defeated Chelsea Green, Io Sky, Lyra Valkyrie, Naomi, and Zoe Starks to win the women's Money in the Bank briefcase. I don't think anyone didn't see that coming. You and I both said that was more than likely going to happen. Unfortunately, one of the biggest issues that I have with people signing talent from TNA is that this is what happens. Naomi has now become just another player on the roster. And I'm not surprised that's what happened. I'm just sad to see that I was right that it was going to happen. And this isn't a WWE thing. AEW does this too. You know, they signed Ethan Page and didn't even have him in the mid card, for Christ's sakes. Not that he should have been, but still. Brian Cage was mid carding Ring of Honor for a while. Deanna Prazzo isn't even on television most weeks. And if she is, it's on Saturday, where there's no headliners. They've really screwed themselves with the way they value other talent they sign, and it seems to have a WWE mentality where if we sign this person, they have to earn their spot, so to speak, which is stupid. But yet here we are, WWE doing it all over again with Naomi. A lot of people were talking about the Chelsea Green spot. It was fine. We've seen that shit before. Like everyone's like, "This is the greatest women's spot of all time." And it's like, all right, cool. You just started watching 4 days ago. I get that. You know, you're new. It's cool. You can think that. But boy, do you have a lot to learn. I'm not mad that Tiffany Stratton won. She made the most sense. They are teasing something with her and Trish Stratus, which I think could be a lot of fun. Most of all, though, the match happened. None of these matches were what I would call good. And the Bloodline defeated Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton. Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, in my opinion, are washed. I don't think they're as good as they once were. I never thought Kevin Owens was that good anyway. But his knees are shot to hell, and he has such a hard time moving. He still has people who like him, so he still has value as a performer. But if you watch him now compared to where he was just 10 years ago when he was 30, vastly different person. His run in NXT when he first came into now, he looks so much worse physically now. And I don't mean like body type or anything like that. I mean just the way he moves. It's stuttered. It feels like every time he steps, you can feel like his knees buckle. And as for Randy Orton, like he hasn't really had a good match in God knows how long. And I think that's kind of the thing that people get shocked by when you actually think about Randy Orton as a performer. Like, when was the last time Randy Orton had a match that tore down the house? It's been well over 12 years, if not longer.
Yeah, last series I can think about was his stuff with Christian in summer 2011.
There you go. So that was 13 years ago. And I think even then Randy was. And now, see, here's the thing with Randy. Randy's injuries are, I don't want to say are more prophetic than Kevin's, but they're more well documented. He has issues with his shoulder where he chronically suffers dislocations.
Hypermobile, yeah.
Yeah. So that causes, and who knows how many he's had, but like every time that happens, you have to take some time off. So like you adjust how you wrestle, and he has, and he wasn't that exciting before, and he's still not that exciting now. He's got one move. It's the RKO. I feel like I'm watching 60-year-old DDP out there. He's got one move. It's the diving gutter, and I'm reminded of like how many people apparently never saw Edge pre 2002 or 2003, I should say, when he was a house on fire. Like, he was hitting these flying heel kicks. You know, he was jumping from the top rope, the electric chair drop, all that. Breaks his neck, not his fault. And shit like that happens. When he comes back, he's no longer throwing those heel kicks. He's no longer hitting those top rope missile drop kicks. He's no longer doing the electric chair drop. And he goes to one of the worst looking spears in the history of wrestling. When you get hurt, you lose a lot of your abilities. You lose a lot of your attributes. That's an unfortunate realm of reality. We can say this is performance. It's sports entertainment. It's ballet for men. Whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, it's still athletics. And at the end of the day, the human body can only perform as well as it can as long as it is not compromised. The minute it becomes compromised, the minute you start to lose your attributes, your skill sets, everything starts to get less than. So if you can be a guy who isn't reliant on athletics, you may have a longer tenure in this business than otherwise. For guys like Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, their bodies are breaking down. And there's a reason why you're not seeing them in the high-profile singles matches that they would have been in 6-7 years ago. Because a lot of times they can't be anymore. Like, Randy Orton came off of a tag team run with Matt Riddle, was gone for a little while, I think because he was injured. And then he's kind of been doing multi-man matches for the most part since he's come back. Yeah. At least multi-man matches on big pay-per-views.
Yeah, he was basically stuck in a rut when he was with Riddle. I don't think he would have been, he said it, he wouldn't have been able to go as long as he did without Riddle, because what would happen was Riddle would take all the stuff in the matches, and then Randy would come do the high tag stuff and get the pin, because his back was so messed up he barely could do anything. So when he left, and damn near got told his career was over because of his injury, now he comes back, he's put a lot of weight on and muscle, but also I think he said he probably has more metal in his back than the Elimination Chamber, which is insane. But that's also not something you want to play with, not at all too dissimilar from how people come back from those next injuries. So I would imagine he's probably wanting to do more quality over quantity. He wants to do all the shows and whatnot, but what he does on those shows, I think, is not going to be a lot. Also, he's also evolved into one of those opponents where, like, he's going to have that high quality match if he's going against somebody like a AJ Styles or Dragunov or Hayes or something like that. He's not the guy that's going to be, lighting up the world unless you're just a diehard Randy Orton fan or you just came to pop for an RKO. So.
And that's what he is right now. And at 44, I don't think people should be shocked. But I do think people should be cognizant of that. Like, outside of May, where he wrestled 8 matches, he's wrestled 3 times since April. He had 1 match in April, 1 match in June, 1 match in July. He's not able to be that guy anymore. And most of the matches outside of the King of the Ring matches, where he faced Tama, Carmelo, and AJ, all the other matches were tag team matches in May. Let's see. Let's go back and look at all the matches for Randy. Alright, for January, he was in a multi-man match against LA and AJ. He did a match with Dominic at the house show, so that's one singles match. He was in a 6-man tag on SmackDown. He was in a singles match against Solo. And then he was in a multi-man match at the Royal Rumble in a 4-way. So he's had 2 singles matches in 2024. So let's just kind of document this. 2 in January. In February, he had 2 matches. One was the Elimination Chamber, which was obviously a multi-man match, and then he had the singles match against Sami Zayn. So that's 1 singles match in February. And the reason why we're not counting or why we're counting multi-man matches the same as tag matches, because it's the same concept for wrestlers. You only have to do so much work in a multi-man match as opposed to a singles match. In March, remember where we're at? Yes. He did a tag team match with Kevin Owens. He did a singles match with Grayson Waller. He did a tag team match with Kevin Owens, and then he did a singles match with Austin Theory. So that's 2 singles matches, both of which on SmackDown. So he's really not wrestling any singles matches on house shows. At WrestleMania in April, he was the only match he wrestled. It was a triple threat match with Logan Paul and Kevin Owens. We've already talked about, what was this, May, so that was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think 4. Gunther defeated Randy Orton, Orton defeated Tama, Orton defeated Carmelo, Orton defeated AJ Styles. And all these were King of the Rings. So it was only 4 matches in May. June, he had 1 match. It was a triple threat. So that doesn't count. And then in July, he's only had 1. It was a 6-man tag match. So he's had, let's see, 9, 10, 12, 20, 21, 22. He's had 22 matches in 2024, and of them all, 9 of which have been singles matches. So he's clearly not what he once was. And I think it's indicative to say that WWE needs to create new stars, because guys like Randy Orton are done. You can just tell physically that they're done. So, kind of a reason why Money in the Bank is what it is. No one's talking about it yet, but I guarantee you in time they will. The WWE main roster is filled with guys who either can't work singles matches, aren't over, or are physically done. And I'll just go through some of the names. Like, look at Andrade, not over. Jey Uso, can't work singles. Sami Zayn, starting to fall apart. Damian Priest, not. I don't think he was ever that good, and he's not getting any better. And then you look at the men's. Solo Sikoa can't wrestle a singles match. Kevin Owens can't do a singles match. Randy Orton can't do a singles match. At least not well anymore. I think of all the ones on this Money in the Bank card, I think Kevin Owens might still be your best bet to get a good singles match. But I don't think he's had a good match in a long time.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things. But to that point, real quick, I guess some on the spot quick booking. How are you going in that men's? How are you booking that men's Rumble of men's Money in the Bank to potentially get done what they needed done with the Priest match, while also, I guess, even with you hating the concept, putting that briefcase in the hands of somebody that could actually do something with it and benefit from it?
I think if the goal is to have Gunther take out Damian Priest at SummerSlam, then I think you put it on LA Knight with the idea that... Is he on SmackDown or Raw? I feel like he's on SmackDown.
Yeah, he's on SmackDown.
You start teasing LA Knight jumping to Raw around the turn of Royal Rumble WrestleMania season. And what you do is you have whoever wins the Rumble face Cody. And if that has to be The Rock, well, guess what? You're on the board of directors. You need to work more than 2 days a year. So you come in, win the Rumble, you face Cody at WrestleMania, then you have LA Knight challenge Gunther for WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight title with the Money in the Bank. That's what I would do. And then that way you have 5 or 6 months to really build up LA Knight as a perceivable threat. I think that's the best way to go, personally.
Gotcha. So instead of what they did with the match with Punk, you just have Punk stop Drew from getting the briefcase and doing the Money in the Bank
Yeah,
and not the match.
exactly.
Gotcha.
Like you could still do
Gotcha.
everything you did there, you know, just one step sooner. And then if you really want to involve Seth Rollins in all this, all you would have to do is have Drew come out again, even though he doesn't have the briefcase, to attack, Damian Priest and Seth Rollins because he's so mad that he didn't get the briefcase. Then Punk attacks him again, and this time Seth gets screwed out of it by accident. And I think that's the way you go. Like, you
Right.
didn't have to waste the Money in the Bank briefcase, but they did. As far as NXT goes, Obi Femi defeated Wesley. A lot of people were talking about this match because, like, the way he threw Wesley. I just want to, like, warn people. When all you care about are highlight spots and GIFs online, you're setting yourself up for a false kind of acknowledgement of who somebody is. Like, I see this all the time in the sports world, where like some NBA player will have like this big highlight, and they're like, "Well, why don't they use him more?" And then you realize he can't hit a jump shot, and he can't hit threes, and he doesn't play defense, and he can't pass, and like he's only really good in transition, and then you're like, "Oh, that's why," because he's a highlight reel, but he's not a good player. And I haven't seen enough of Obafemi to make that decision. If he's a good wrestler or not, I just know that he's been in the Federation for less than 2 years. He's 26 years old. I don't think sitting here declaring him a great big man or a bad big man is the way to go. I think people are disrespecting Wesley by not acknowledging how good of a seller he is and how good of a wrestler he is. Obafemi can be great. Just give him time. Kaylani Jordan defeated Sol Roca in a match that had a lot of people talking. It was basically a stolen spot for spot moves fets from the Ricochet Will Ospreay Best of the Super Juniors match that got, who was it? Vader so pissed off that he wanted to fight Will Ospreay for real. And then it happened here. And what's ironic is like the Ospreay's been dogged by WWE fans since he spurned the WWE to sign with AEW, right? And now all of a sudden these two women who, and I watched the match. It's not good. It's not bad. But like that one segment and Sol Roca's flippy clothesline, notwithstanding, like there wasn't a lot there in terms of a great story. And I'm one of the few guys that will tell you I was not a fan of that Ospreay Ricochet Flippity Doo Dah BOSJ match. Like I wasn't, and to see it be played out again, but only cheaply, felt like I was watching the Wish.com version. I feel like it was we have Ospreay and Ricochet at home. No, we don't. I don't think the match was great. I think there's opportunity here. I think both women have talent. I think athleticism matters so much more than people realize when it comes to pro wrestling, but I don't think this is going to be the moment that so many WWE bootlickers think it is, because at the end of the day, they still have to prove that they can be stars, not just talent. But they are talent, and that's something. Nathan Frazier and Axiom defeated Chase University to retain the NXT titles. I haven't heard anything about this match, good or bad. The Kalani Jordan Soul Rocket match was so talked about, I had to go out of my way to watch it. I have not seen a lot of this card yet. I do find Axiom to be hilarious because it's A Kid, and A Kid is fantastic. And I don't even hate the fact they put him under a mask. It's a pretty solid mask, so I just always kind of chuckle at it. Roxanne Perez defeated Lola Vice in one of the more uncomfortable feuds. Lola Vice just kind of shook her ass and told Roxanne Perez she wasn't Spanish enough. And I feel like that's some self-hating Spanishness right there, and I don't know why we had to go there.
Yeah, it's a weird little dig, Roxanne Perez. It's fine. I like Lola Vice. A lot of things I like a lot about Lola Vice. But it's this thing where she just, in every possible instance, she has to do the ass shake thing.
It's
Like
kind of all she is.
Like she was kind of compel herself to tears during the promo for the last show before Heat Wave, and she like was trying to tear up, looked up to the sky to like reference somebody or something like that. She was trying to evoke tears, and she still had to do the. I'm like, this wasn't the time for that. You look goofy now. Like, it's He's supposed to be this fighter with knockout power with a back fist, and it's like it's time for that. Like she's just doing it every time and not picking spots to actually do it when it's called for. It's not good.
She, I covered her entire Bellator career. I'm gonna be honest with you. She doesn't really have knockout power. She knocked out one woman. It was Tara
Yeah,
Graff, and it was a
yeah,
lucky shot.
yeah,
She does have a TKO to her name, which is not the same as a knockout because a TKO is a technical knockout. It's a referee stoppage via strikes. It's not a
yeah.
legitimate knockout. A knockout is a knockout. And she does have a TKO against Colby Fletcher. I think it was in 2019. It was her first fight, if I remember correctly. She's a below average MMA fighter. It's kind of like it'd be like if you were trying to make what's her name? She was Sonya Deville. It's like you're trying to
Yeah.
say Sonya Deville had the same kind of MMA career as Ronda Rousey. Like she didn't, and it's a lie to insinuate that she did. And like Lola Vice is attractive, and she's got a great name, like A tier name. But the problem is she's always been about this unearned, look at me kind of behavior, even in the world of fighting, and she's kind of doubling down on it now as a pro wrestler, and I don't think it's working like she thinks it does, because it's
Yeah.
not original. You know how many women in pro wrestling have done the "look at me, I'm pretty" gimmick, but are better wrestlers than Lola Vice and aren't as detestable in real life as Lola Vice? Like she's not a likable human. She's got a bigger ego than Ronda Rousey. Like this is going to be a very interesting situation to see how she develops and moves along down the line as she continues to wrestle because she's only 25. But she
Yeah.
bailed on MMA because she wasn't good enough. And I have a concern she might do that in the WWE if she doesn't get higher, spots on the card. Speaking of high, I don't know whose idea it was to put the belt on Ethan Page, but you must have been. So, I don't think
I,
NXT was better than the Money in the Bank. I don't think Money in the Bank was good, but I don't think NXT was good. So I
yeah.
don't know.
I've come to appreciate this new crop of talent in NXT. They got a lot of good promise in there. Certainly than when they started back when 2.0 first kicked off.
I agree.
But yeah, they got a nice class of gals and girls down there. But this was not one of their better showings. Like you said, got to give all the credit in the world to the Wesley for selling. It's always been great. Over, like you said, just give him time. Great, just give him time. Um, Everything else, like I like Nathan and Axiom together. I don't know why they teasing some type of beef between the two of them, but that's how that's going. In terms of the women, that was like Soldier Boy said, so much stuff line for line, bar for bar. Um, Not really debatable, but that was a better match for Lonnie than I think she's had previously. So hopefully she improves and Soul Rooker will continue to get better because she's severely athletic and has that great um, soul snatcher finisher that people go crazy for. So, but I'm scratching my head at this damn Ethan Page decision. I don't get it. I don't know if it's a little lack of faith in um, Flip as a trick as a face, and they want to lean more into Ethan as a heel because he is solid on the mic. But I'm scratching my head at decisions like that. I'm scratching my head at decisions like they did with the women's tag championships. I'm like, you guys never give people hometown victories, and the one time that you do, you give it to the people in the match who lost to one of the teams that was also in the match on the Raw prior to the pay per view, just because it was their hometown, and you took it off of two women who were better for the belts than the belts were for the two of them. So, and you haven't seen or heard really anything from them since. So it's head scratching decisions like that. Again, stuff that also, well, no, obviously not the NXT stuff, but these decisions also fall on the Triple H. So you gotta weigh out the cons with the pros. But yeah, Money in the Bank was better, not fantastic, but with a better show.
So speaking of shows, let's talk about the press conference of it all. I think it was Brandon Thurston.
That's an interesting thing. Real quick, I guess we need to bring it up for the show. You surprised? How you feel about Cena's retirement? The whole deal.
Yeah, so that was something I wanted to add to the show, and I kept forgetting to do it.
Gotcha.
I feel like with The Miz, we kind of take out a lot of the honest talking points about John Cena's career. John Cena, everyone's like, well, he's so respectable because he always wanted to be a guy that the Make-A-Wish kids would like. That sounds altruistic, but it's actually just narcissistic. He has to have everyone like him. He takes his work very seriously, and I've never denied that. But part of the problem is for a bulk of John Cena's career is he wasn't worth watching. You can rectify that in any type of way now because you want to be on the right side of history if you think there is a right side. But at the end of the day, John Cena had a good 5 to 7 year stretch where he didn't do anything worth paying attention to. He was a guy who stopped momentum, ruined storylines, buried talent, and did it all for his ego. This isn't disputable. This isn't a lie. He buried NXT. He buried Rey Mysterio. He buried... I couldn't even begin to tell you all the guys that he put down. And then, yeah, finally he decided to put over a guy like Sami Zayn or Kevin Owens. But, all right, cool. That was 12 years after your run started, homie. I'm not impressed. You don't need to put over everyone 2 years into your run, but let's not pretend that the reality wasn't the reality. He was a bad draw for a long time because he refused to do anything to freshen himself up. He was static. He was uninteresting. He was boring. And if you go back and watch, I won't be proven wrong. He had a lot of dumb, boring, pathetic, poorly booked feuds. And he was as much of a contributing factor to that as anyone. He talks openly about how close he and Vince McMahon was. If he didn't want to do something, he wasn't going to do it. So yeah, he buried the Nexus. He buried so many guys. He didn't care because he just wanted to get his dollar. And I'm not mad about it. But the argument now is that, fans booed him. How could fans boo him? You sit there for 12 years and you watch the same Jordan bullshit happen week in and week out. You see guys who should have gone over not go over. It got to a point where the only reprieve we had was CM Punk, and we're like, oh, this is going to be great. CM Punk will be gone for months, and he wasn't because bad booking. I'm going to miss John Cena to an extent. I have not missed him since he's been gone. I haven't really missed him that much since he left as a full-timer. I think he will go down as a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it, as a true headliner, a true icon of the industry. But it will be less earned, I think, than others of his ilk. Because it wasn't so much that he was popular, it was that he was consistent enough to make sure the floor never fell out. I think he would be, and this is the way people want to erase and change history. The fact of the matter is Shawn Michaels was not a headliner for most of his career. When he was young, before his retirement, he was not able to boost ratings. He wasn't a big house show guy. He wasn't a big headliner guy. Some of that changed as he got into his 40s, but in his late 20s, not so much. And I feel like John Cena and Shawn Michaels, their top tenure in the company very similar. From 2007 to 2012, 2013, 2014, John Cena didn't move the needle forward for the WWE. Now, some of that's on booking, some of that's on the talent, some of that's on injuries, some of that's on a lot of the reasons, but a lot of it's on him. And when Michaels became champion 95 to about 98, the WWE wasn't really moving the needle with him as champion. Even with him as a top face in 94, on the way up, he wasn't moving the needle. Great entertainers, Michael's a hell of a wrestler. John Cena, pretty good wrestler. Both are going to be, both one is a Hall of Famer, one will be a Hall of Famer. I do not think that the retroactive correction of history to try to make Cena seem like he was a far better performer than he was is fair, or honest, or right. John Cena sucked a lot of the time he was out there as a main eventer. I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't think he's without redemption. I don't think he's without merit. I think there are plenty of moments where, John Cena was pretty good there. But you can't just ignore the moments where he was ass. Where he thought feuding with what's his name? People Power. With John Laurinaitis was a good idea. Like, he main evented a show with John Laurinaitis. He buried Ron Killings. Remember when Ron Killings showed up in a Confederate uniform?
Capital Punishment 2011.
That was John Cena. Like, why are we pretending that didn't happen? That was a shit feud, and Ron was still in the prime of his career then. Like, how? John Cena, man.
Yeah, that word polarizing comes up a lot, and they're not wrong about it. Like, I think some of the best stuff for me as a fan with him was watching his rise to that point, because you literally got to go with him from that ruthless aggression moment to finding it with the Dr. Thugonomics and really becoming popular in that instance. And then obviously, him and Batista had similar climbs. They both rose to that in WrestleMania 21, and then they kind of took off after that. But Cena, for a while there, like you said, to your point, he really was, like, I guess this generation's Hogan with the 5 moves of doom and all that. And really his matches were so predictable because you knew, like I said, if the match went 28 minutes, 27 of them, he was going to be getting beat up. Mm-hmm. And then in that last minutes, hit the comeback and get out of there. And that went on for years. And for a period there, if you were still riding with him significantly, it's because you just really latched on to him as a fan. But, he became the wall for a lot of guys. Like you said, the Nexus, Truth, Bray, at a certain point. So a lot of up and down. Then he had that U.S. title, that open challenge, and everybody was like, "Oh my God," and all that stuff. So it's a lot of up and down, but definitely everything you said, definitely a future Hall of Famer on his merit. I think one of the things nobody can deny is the level of commitment he had to being that guy in that spot, because he gave up his whole life to do it. Like, he eat, slept, and breathed the company, to the point where a significant portion of his personal life suffered, because that's all he wanted to be. And I think he knew what the burden that came with that, between being the guy with the title a lot of time and doing all the Make-A-Wish stuff, which is insane, but it kind of speaks to a quality person. It took a lot. So that level of work ethic certainly deserves the merit. But also, to your point, much like you, haven't missed him since he stopped being full-time. Haven't missed him since the last time we got him, and probably won't really miss him when he closes out. I'm looking forward to seeing what they could potentially do in his final run, but he's not at the level he was. He's balding. He looks more like the guy that's over that's a significant member of the homeowners association than he does the guy now. And, he's at the rock stage now where he's actually picking up momentum in Hollywood. And he's married and doing other stuff. So it's like, this no longer takes precedence. So getting one final run, I think he's deserving of that. But truth be told, we talked about this with The Undertaker. If they're still in the spot where they need a Cena, that's a completely different problem.
And you're exactly. The WWE had to over-rely on Cena because they didn't have anyone else. The problem, though, is that they did have people that could have stepped up, but they didn't want to risk the merch sales, because the way they saw it was, we're going to make up some numbers. We'll make them palpable, though. We're making $100 a month selling John Cena merchandise. We could be making $5,000 a month if we sold CM Punk merchandise, but we could also be making $2 a month if we sold CM Punk merchandise. But we know we'll always make $100 a month with John Cena. He became the median average of the company. They knew that they would never drop out under him, but they would never excel past their current standings. It's why he went over Brock Lesnar. Does anyone else? Are we forgetting 2012 when when he got his ass kicked by Brock Lesnar for 17 minutes, and then in the last 24 seconds he used a chain and got the win? Are we forgetting that? Like really? The problem is John Cena was so overexposed that there was never going to be any hope to get the fans back on the side unless they did something different and drastic with it. And they didn't. Every other wrestler has been able to change, evolve, take time away, step back from the spotlight, do something to keep the fans interested. You know, you have guys like Sting who changed his look. You have guys like Ricky Steamboat who went from a headliner to a tag team act to an upper mid card guy because he knew he couldn't just hang around one area of the roster. He'd make people be very bored of him. John Cena was always a main eventer, was always around the same title scenes, was always around the same performers, was always around the same outcomes. It happens. You know, the WWE over relied on him and it turned fans against them, and people are going to try to retcon what was going on at the time, but John Cena wasn't the asset people want to pretend he was. He wasn't a villain, but he wasn't the asset that people are making him out to be today. Far from the greatest of all time. Far from it. If he does get a 17th title win, it won't have the same feeling as if others got to that mark. I think he shouldn't. I think as a performer, he's washed. I think that's why he's retiring. In fact, he's said as much.
Uh-huh.
Physically, he's not there anymore. He may only be 47, but his body's moving like he's 57. Like he's limited.
Yeah.
And I think he's picking the right time to go out. I think he's going to have a fun time.
Yep.
But I still don't believe that the WWE will find a way to retire him correctly, because why should I when they've failed so many other times? So.
Looking at you, Kurt Angle. Yeah, so Cena's made a hero for a while, certainly not the biggest villain. See, Chad, the biggest villain are these damn reporters.
Margo, that's a great segue. So Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics had the audacity to ask John Cena and Triple H two questions. One, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember the exact question, but one was if John Cena still felt the same way about Vince McMahon now that all these allegations have come out, to which John Cena said, lol, no, not going to answer that. Again, I'm paraphrasing. And then he asked Triple H if the WWE is still continuing to what was the word he used? Cooperate with the FBI with their investigation into into Vince McMahon's sex trafficking allegations. To which Triple H said, I can't answer any of that. I think John Cena owes a lot of fans a lot of things because John Cena has proven to be a bootlicker. He's praised Vince McMahon even after the allegations broke originally. He spoke very highly of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, in part because they were doing work in the CCP. So obviously John Cena's not going to burn any bridges to make money. I don't know if Triple H could or won't answer those questions. I know he won't though. Can he? But is he told not to? But he wants to. But legally can't. Okay, probably, maybe. But could he? And he can, but he doesn't want to. I think that's more likely. I think it's far more likely that he wouldn't tell anyone anything because he doesn't respect the media. We know he doesn't. TKO doesn't respect the media. Look at the way Dana White treats journalists. I think Brandon Thurston did the right thing. I think considering the allegations against the women. Not against the women, that the women have made against Vince McMahon and the WWE, considering the rumors that guys like Nick Khan and Triple H knew about it, considering the rumors that Stephanie McMahon knew about it, considering how deep this could possibly go, I think it's fair, I think it's right, and I think it needs to happen every single fucking time that there's a press conference that these people get asked these questions. Oh, but it's not the time for that. Yes, it is. It's a fucking press conference. You don't get to dictate what the press asks. And if you don't want to do these press conferences, then stop doing them. You can either host these press conferences, respond in the way you're going to these questions, and call it a day, or not have them.
But Chad, they ruined the mood.
I'm sure the lives this company has ruined matter a little bit more than your mood there, IWC. I think of like all the story, and man, I mean all the stories over the Chris Benoit. Not even the thing that happened with his family, but like the bullying he gave to people, unnecessary. Like, listen, I don't like Mike Mizan, and again, like people are trying to rectify the history on that one. They're like, oh, no, he was always so good. No, he wasn't. Mike Mizan has, will always, forever, and no, then, now, and forever suck. No, he got
Yeah.
really good. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. But like, he didn't deserve to get bullied by Benoit the way he did. And then like there's the whole stranding Justin Roberts, although fuck Justin Roberts too. But there's the whole stranding Justin Roberts in a foreign country without his passport. That's illegal. That's not even bullying. That's illegal. That's a felony. You cannot steal someone's government ID. That is illegal. But like this shit happened under Vince's watch. Like the shit that Triple H did to some of these divas in their trials, these kangaroo courts. It's fucking lunacy. And yet we're supposed to be like, oh no, you're ruining the mood. I want there to be a goddamn reckoning where this company falls in on itself. And the people that are responsible for decades of abuse are tar feathered and hung, only to then be quartered by horses. They don't deserve to live, let alone run a wrestling company. I mean, these people abused people. Some were trafficked. Some were driven to the brink of suicide. And I'm supposed to care, Marcus? That after a shitty ass show that was as predictable and uninspired as possible, that we got to ask two questions that were not in line with the WWE views on how to perform a press conference? Well, blow me down, I'm sorry. I think this company still needs a reckoning. I don't think Triple H is a good human being. I don't. The stories I've heard about him on top, the stories I heard about, the shit he did to Joni Lawler alone is despicable. And yet he gets to run this company, and all these little bootlickers are going to lick the aglets on his goddamn shoelaces. They're going to
Yeah.
all so that they can be part of something because they have nothing in their lives worth of value. It's fucking pathetic.
Or if you don't want to acknowledge the reality of the illegalities that are being investigated, of all the, like you said, the bootlicking, it wasn't him that decided to turn the story around with Cody. It was The Rock that influenced that.
Shitty booker,
He
shitty person.
he, he had to go to the what Arya, uh,
Davari?
Khan, and yeah, uh, the three guys over the company, and change their mind, and how much pushback are they gonna give The Rock? So again, because it was left up to them, they would just go truck through it and give and do what they did with Roman all them years ago, and just force him down your throat, make you deal with it. So again, you got to acknowledge it's cons on all sides. You can't duck it. So I can understand it. Cena talking about he talked about it before in several interviews. Several superstars have or whatever. Um, but it was right for him to ask Triple H because it is still going on, which is why he basically was like, can't talk about it. So the whole thing about he didn't need to ask it. Like, when was it? What you think he was gonna tweet at him? The question? Like, yeah, because Triple H do all them Twitter Q&As he do every other week. Was it gonna DM it to him? Like, just come on, man. Like, y'all really got to get this. I get it. Triple H comes out and you just like all the fans gaslight me, Daddy H. Y'all got to slow up, man. Like, just real that investigation is still going on. They're doing a great job with throwing all their successes in your face and all the numbers, because that's basically what he does at these press conferences: come out and blob out about the numbers and all that, and throwing these deals that we just talked about on the last show about these deals with these big term deals, 3-pack deals of the pay-per-views with these states. But that stuff is still going on behind the scenes, and it's a real thing, and it's not going away because it's legitimate history that's still lingering around the thing. So
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Until that time comes, when we can actually have resolution to these crimes, these questions need to be asked. And if that's a problem to you, then you're the issue. We got a few quick talking points, though. We already talked a little bit about it. Marcus, how did you feel about the Solaroka? There's actually a few things. There's the poaching allegations. AEW is apparently poaching talent from other promotions, but WWE is lining up to offer Jordan Grace a contract. People are pointing out that
yeah,
that's poaching.
your boy just main evented the show with Trick
Uh,
as a
Joe
Joe
Hendry.
Hendry. Yeah, they took out Devon Evans early in the show, and then Joe Hendry closed out the show. Got the pin for the win and everything. So
Joe Hendry, the Rascals, Jordan Grace, a few others have popped up and what have you. So there's a lot of potential of NXT stealing. I shouldn't say stealing. They can only leave if they want to. There's a lot of potential of NXT getting TNA talent that I would rather not see in NXT or WWE. But when AEW does it, it's poaching. Then there's the conversations about how AEW doesn't have any stories, even though I think I've been swayed on what I think should happen at All In Wembley. As I think they're still going to Wembley, right?
yeah, that's the peak of the Owen Hart thing.
I don't know if it's already tickets have gone on sale, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I would imagine. So when is that all in?
Like end of August.
So yeah,
Like they better be on
sure.
sale.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll see what the tickets look like. But I thought Bryan Danielson should have headlined it against Swerve. After the last few segments and shows with Hangman, I think it should be Hangman Page versus Swerve. I'm not a Hangman guy, so for me to say it should be Hangman should give you an idea on how
Takes a lot. Yeah.
how good I think he's been since coming back. So
Yeah, he's just that guy that he needed a good hook, he needed a good narrative, and this is the best narrative you can get. Me and Chad are greatly appreciative of consistency with depth to it. And look, man, you break into my house with my baby alone. I don't know how that checks out. I guess the mom stepped out. I don't know. Baby alone in the crib, and you threaten my child. It's never over. So I appreciate that, like you said, that consistency. I would very much like to see Bryan and Swerve, although I think they got that match out the way early on in the year. So it happened, but they could always run that back. But this thing with him and Paige, it's the what they did with Orton and Triple H when he took out all the McMahon's that one year. They capped that off with a very mundane match, but I don't think that's gonna happen here. Like they going. I think Paige got some good meat on the bone for this one. So looking forward to that. But in terms of the poaching thing, like you said, people can't leave if they don't want to. I just don't think WWE is particularly NXT in particular, are not laying out the red carpet of perception when they come. To be like, So
it looks like it's about 2/3 sold.
okay,
So that's pretty good considering it's like a 70,000 seat stadium or something like that.
gotcha.
And they still got 2 months to go, and they don't even have the headline yet.
Don't even have the headline. Tony gonna throw about 10 matches on the show the night before.
And we still got to get to that. So the hypocrisy is starting to become a problem, right? Sol Roca and what's her name doing all the matches that or all the moves that Ricochet and Will Ospreay did and having two different reactions. The lack of a story for AEW, but then AJ Styles is going to just show up in Noah for a one-off match with no story. Both companies are doing the same thing, but fans can't get their heads out of their asses. And I think it's time fans get their heads out of their asses. Just gonna point that
Yeah,
out there.
yeah, I was telling James on one of our shows. It's like both fan bases are um caught in fogs, but they're screaming at each other from across the street that their fog's better, and it's just it's stupid.
It's beyond stupid. So the other thing to point out is that a WWE fan reported AEW to the FBI, and I can't believe this is a real thing. His name is Tech Cloud. He has a Yelp account. His name is Technability, and he has a Yelp account. And he apparently fixes small scale electronics like cell phones and such. Apparently, he got inundated with some tribalism, so to speak. And his response wasn't to pull back, stop texting and tweeting and touch grass, as the kids say, but instead filed a complaint against the AEW to the FBI. He says, according to eWrestling News, he was quoted as writing because he posted the screenshots of his FBI message. I am one of the many individuals and victims of internet doxing encouraged by All Elite Wrestling LLC, owned by Tony Khan, their employees, their consumers, and subsidiaries. That's not true. They were never encouraged. There will be evidence provided to showcase that All Elite Wrestling LLC at large has promoted their consumer base to act in such a manner that exposes people's private information, photos, and other data to be used against them, with no denouncement or of egregious behavior, accountability, or any action by All Elite Wrestling LLC or its counterparts to denounce said unethical activity and business practices. Along with the data and proof I will provide, there will be a multitude of examples of internal targeted harassment, data leaks, slander, libel, and other instances of abuse that can be potentially led to class action lawsuits against All Elite Wrestling LLC, along with its subsidiary organizations, and internet publications who have encouraged this behavior, as well as lower-level social media users who will be named that have been tasked with encouraging doxing of anyone from dissenting opinions on various social media accounts against All Elite Wrestling LLC. I'm going to surprise you with how this went. He got drove off of Twitter and deleted his Twitter account because people thought this was a step too far. Apparently, when you make up shit about being doxxed, maybe he was, but it certainly wasn't at the hands of All Elite Wrestling, and All Elite Wrestling does not need to put out a text every 12 minutes saying, please don't dox people. That's not their job. It's not their prerogative. It's not their responsibility. Apparently, though, he did not get the responses he liked from wrestling fans and left. I'm not surprised that this is happening. Marcus, is I don't even know, man. Like what's your take on this?
Filing an overly emotional complaint with the wrong department is classic Karen behavior. Um,
Yeah, this is Ken behavior right here.
yeah, you can, yeah, thank you, yeah, but yeah, it's and it the hypocrisy. Speaking of that word tonight, the fans that riled them up are also the fans were like, okay, this is a bit too far. They scorned they put him they reprimanded him and then reported him, which is uh which is hilarious that the mob did both ends of the job. Usually they just go one way. Um, yeah, it's bad on both sides because ultimately it is a deep rooted cesspool of tribalism that we see every day. But also, like he had to know that wasn't going to go that way. Like the FBI, you reported a company to the FBI about some stuff that the a portion of their fan base was doing on a social media platform. Like he got that emotionally riled up that he just lost all logic. It's like he it's like when people get pissed off because you call 911 for a non-911 related thing. Like you know you can be arrested for this, right?
So I do believe that they have like a self-report, you can like report crimes. I don't think that's the same thing as calling 911 because it's not an emergency number. But I do have to question the nonsense behind this because I decided to read some comments, right? Because like I like to get a vibe, and most people were making fun of him. One guy's like, "But this doesn't mean he actually submitted it." And like, listen, that's not the argument you think it is. Like, he still thought it was a good idea to screen cap and post. It's still not a great idea. Still makes you look pretty stupid. And I'm just thinking to myself, Mark, it's like, how far of a plot have we lost that this is now the nonsense that we're allowing? It's fucking wrestling, man. It ain't that big of a deal.
Look, man, we've also seen it with the comic book stuff. To these people, it becomes their whole world and half of their identity. So every little thing that doesn't align with how they feel about it and think about it and think it should go, it's a personal offense. It's heresy to them. They take that stuff that seriously because it's something they can attach to. That they can deal within the reality of what they shape around the thing. They get control because all this real life stuff is too heavy. It's too much that's out of their control. They don't only want to deal with what they need to deal with. But around this stuff, they can create the narrative, curate it however they feel like it, or just ride along the wave. And then anybody that they don't like that's on the boat, they throw back in the water. So, it's a pitiful existence, but, one so many sadly enough take part in.
And with that being said, that's all we got for this week's show. We're back next Tuesday for another one. For Marcus, you can find him on Paradox Kid on Twitter, PARADOXKID.
That's me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, TRUEPENNYSHOW. You can find me on the Twitter at CHADNERDCORP and on the Instagram at ChadSphoto at CHADSPHOTOHUT. The website is realnerdcorp.com. The Twitter is NERDCORP. That's Nerdcorp on Twitter. We will be back next Tuesday for another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. We'll be talking more, especially as we build up to Slammiversary, which is coming. I think is it already this week? No, it can't be. No. It's July 20th. I remember when Slammiversary was in the beginning of June.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk more about Slammiversary next week because they already got 5 matches, some pretty decent title matches. I swear to God, if Ash by Elegance wins, I'm gonna be so fucking flippant. I won't be that mad, but I'll be like, this is stupid.
Yeah, we won't turn into the fans we just talked about, but it will be some idiot, some real idiot also. I don't, again, nothing personal against her, but like the fact that she's getting this opportunity because she never feel like in her entire run in WWE she wasn't featured as much as she has been on TNA. But she is not at all on Jordan's level.
No, not even a little bit. And I think
not
it's
even
beyond obvious.
Yeah, so it's great. It's funny because I was watching her on Ring of Honor, and I liked when she was in TNA. I don't know how they fell out with Lady Frost, but it'd be cool to see her back. But so they definitely need to get somebody that can get up to that tier. And to your point, like you're talking about with Trinity, she would probably likely still be in and or around the title scene, but she had this felt like she needed to go home. So hopefully they don't poach Jordan. But if he's going that way, that is not the person who should have next.
No. And we'll talk more about who should have next eventually. Because it's certainly a question worth asking, especially with somebody the size of Jordan Grace. But we'll talk about that soon enough. But yeah, so that'll be for next week. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. And Marcus, why don't you take us home?
Good night.